Greetings and welcome to
YAS Podcast, formerly known as
YAS Stripper Podcast.
This is our podcast, all of ours.
A podcast for all sex workers.
In this podcast, we will discuss the ins and outs, ups and downs of our lives and experiences as sex workers. I am your host, Daisy Ducati.
I am your heauxprahs, Gigi Holiday.
I'm your stripper queen from the north, Onyx.
I'm A.M. Davies, and this is YAS Podcast.
Hello. How are
Hi.
you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you? What's up, Daisy?
I'm doing amazing.
You're today's host, yeah?
Yes. I am
Yes.
so excited to talk to Mix Pucks Aplenty.
I am excited too. We put a call out onto social media looking for LGBTQIA voices very specifically. And the response was overwhelming, but I gotta tell you, Mixed Pucks Aplenty was the first. They were like right on top of it. So I'm so excited for you two to have a chat and for our audience to learn more about Mixed Pucks Aplenty. But obviously, you're the host today. You're the boss. You're gonna do all of this, and I can't wait to just sit back and relax and watch y'all.
I'm so excited. This is going to be such a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Well, so we are here with Pucks. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Daisy?
I am amazing. Before we get started with our interview, what are your pronouns?
Oh, my pronouns are they, them, yes, queen. They aren't preferred. They just are. Please and thank you.
I love it. So, what have you been up to lately? Why don't we give our listeners a little introduction?
So I am a burlesque performer and producer based in Seattle, Washington. I've been doing burlesque for about 8 years. And I am a sex and kink and queer theory educator, consultant, model, pro-dom, parent. I kind of do a lot of different things. I do the most all the time. I produce 2 burlesque festivals here in Seattle. What the
Awesome.
Funk, an all people of color burlesque festival, and Fatness Fest Northwest, which is focused on plus size performers. And currently, in my current obsession right now is I turned 40 last year, so I'm in this health kick of trying to make sure that like the form isn't crumbling and falling apart. Got to keep the foundation strong.
Totally.
So a lot of my focus as of late has been on like rest as like a radical form of like, disruption, in capitalism, in the face of capitalism and all of that. So
Yes.
yeah,
Amen.
that's what I'm doing.
I love it. So, I noticed you describe yourself as Black, fat, non-binary, queer, and disabled. How have these identities shaped your relationship with performance, pleasure, and activism?
Well, I mean, I think that, looking at each of these identifiers for myself, starting with the fact of just being Black and being in a assigned female at birth body, Black femmes have a lot of expectation, heavy baggage on our body. Too much and not enough, all in the same breath. So, I just remember being, younger and kind of coming into my body and I started maturing at an early age, about 10 or 11, and just really having people on kind of all sides of everything, having comments and things to say about my body. And a lot of it was like hypersexualized because like I started developing my chest early and it was really hippie. And, so I kind of had a disdain for my body at a fairly early age, probably about 10 or 11. And then being fat, I've been fat for all of my adult life. there is kind of this like there are kind of two baskets we put fat people in when it comes to like their sexuality and pleasure. Either you have to be hypersexual because who would want to be with you and touch you anyway. So there's like, you have to put out because then no one will want to be with you. Or there's just like this complete kind of asexuality that's placed on fat people. Well, no one's attracted to fat bodies, so clearly you're not getting any. And there's kind of never really an in between in that zone. So it took me quite some time to be like confident sexually in a fat body, and that's mostly because of societal pressures. I came out as non-binary pretty late in life. I've been out as non-binary for 8 years now. And I think it has enhanced my comfort in my body. I don't feel like I'm stuck to using certain words or things that are or gendered or not gendered. It's kind of created a lot more freedom around like my sexual expression and like how I seek pleasure. Queer is mostly so that cis het men don't speak to me. That's don't talk to me. I've been queer my whole life. I knew fairly early. I was about 9. My first like crush that I could articulate was a woman. I was watching Batman Returns, and Michelle Pfeiffer in the cat suit was everything. And I remember being about 9 when that movie came out and just being like, I don't know what it is, but she's appealing. And then, disabled folks, there's just a whole bunch of, ignorance surrounding, our sexuality and our pleasure and all of that. So, I mean, all of these identities separately kind of come with their own baggage. But, I mean, in terms of like performance, and activism, I mean, self-preservation is a big motivating factor in activism, I think, right? I don't think it gets enough credit, like at all. Of like, why would I not, be out here screaming for, fat liberation and Black liberation and, fighting for queer rights? These things actually affect my everyday life. So they're like, and I think that people feel like that is like selfish or self-serving. But if we don't protect ourselves, if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not looking out for our own interests in some ways. What's the
That
point?
makes perfect sense.
Right? Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Like, we really have to look out for the ways that we are having to struggle.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned not serving androgyny before. Can you unpack the tension there between mainstream queer aesthetics and how you show up in your body and your work?
Yeah. I mean, I think that like, I think there's this assumption that non-binary folks owe people androgyny, that is what the goal is for, non-binary folks. And I mean, no, not for me. It's never really been, I won't like kind of the poster child for like what we think of. I think what people think of when they think of androgyny is like a Tilda Swinton kind of person, straight size, able-bodied, white, and kind of this like, gender ambiguous kind of person. Like I have no plans on having top surgery. My breasts do not cause me gender dysmorphia at all. They are just here. They're 2 bags of fat that are very, 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 very fun to have on a person. But I also think that like androgyny in the way that it's portrayed in media and how people think of it is also like really rooted in classism. Like to be able to afford like all the cute androgynous outfits, and they don't really make a lot of like gender euphoric non-binary-esque kind of things for plus size bodies. We have some really neat like dapper wear stuff that, is for plus size bodies, but a lot of it's really plain looking, or it doesn't go up past a certain size. Like they cap out at like 3X and you're just like, great, my titties ain't fitting in this top like at all. And you want me to button it up too? There's no way.
Yeah.
So I really think that like a lot of this androgyny talk is really centered around like the Euro standard of beauty, yet again, poking its head into a non-binary space, a gender fluid space. It's really fascinating how much whiteness can like penetrate different aspects of things that are supposed to be breaking away from the binary, breaking away from colonialism, breaking away from these different things, and how we're just like, we run into it even in these different movements and these different places of expression. It's insidious, really.
Totally. So what does endurance mean to you in the context of pride in your journey through queerness, gender, and visibility?
I mean, I think that a lot of us queer folks, a lot of us marginalized folks in general, but queer folks, like, this is an ongoing, like, attack on who we are as people. Every time, like, it's baffling when you hear folks being like trans people, they're new. And it's like, no. Like trans folks have existed, non-binary folks have existed, queer folks have been here.
The whole time.
Right? The whole time. It's this continued erasure and having to rebuild. And it's very smart. It's what folks do when they want to erase something that's really important. I truly believe that queer people are like divine individuals, right? A lot of us are reaching this place, in our journey where we're like, love is love, and gender is whatever. So it's like all these different things that push at these rules that are meant to constrain people and force people into these boxes. And queer folks continue to put our foot down and say that we exist. And, I remember the first like gay person I met was this kid in middle school. And I remember thinking, why is he doing this? Like, and it wasn't because of anything that he was doing per se. He was getting like shoved into lockers and beat up after school. And I'm just like, no one would choose this.
Yeah.
No one would actively make this choice knowing that this is how they're going to be treated. And that has always been like this huge visual reminder in my head of what it means to endure. It means, to show up as your full self, your full authentic self, knowing that there are people who are going to place judgment on you, that want you to be harmed, that don't think that you should have any rights, that want to dehumanize you and don't see you as human. That takes a level of strength that I am enamored with queer people all the time, where I'm just like, we continue to face this erasure of our history, and we're just like, nope, we're going to stand here, we're going to be here. And so, it's the queer existence is a marathon.
For sure. It's a constant struggle, but it doesn't end. It just evolves,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes.
So I've been checking out some of your burlesque that you've posted online, and you are incredible. I just want to throw that out there. How did you first find your way into burlesque?
I discovered burlesque almost 15 years ago. I had just had my son, and we were struggling to get him down for a nap. So it's like, okay, we're gonna watch some Netflix, and hopefully we can get this kid to go to bed so I could take a nap too. And I found this documentary called A Wink and a Smile. It's about burlesque. It talks a little bit about burlesque history, but it showed this like group of women taking a intro to burlesque program, and it happened to be in Seattle, where I'm based out of, and it happened to be with Miss Indigo Blue at her academy, and I was just like hooked, hooked, hooked,
Yeah.
hooked. And so I, typed into the internet, I need to go to a burlesque show, and the first burlesque show I went to was like all white cast, all straight sized, like it was very much so like going to the ballet and being like, oh, this is not what my body can't do this, but I can enjoy it and I can appreciate it. So that's how I always felt about burlesque for a really long time. Was I don't think it's actually something that I can do, but I can appreciate it and love it and support it. And about 9 years ago, I was working on a fundraising event for the Center for Sex Positive Culture, and they're like, let's do a cabaret burlesque show. And so I got to meet all these burlesque performers, and they were really, really encouraging. I took a drop-in class with Miss Indigo Blue, and she's like, yeah, we got this 8-week program thing. You should do it. And I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll do it. And so I did it with the intention of I'm marking an item off my bucket list, and I'll do it, and I'll do my recital, and I'll never think about this again. And so here we are 8 years later. I've been ranked in the top 50 of most influential burlesque figures in the world 4 years in a row. Like I said, I have these 2 burlesque festivals I do. I've gotten to travel all over the US, parts of Canada. I've headlined in places, which is just wild to say, oh yeah, as a fat, Black, disabled, non-binary performer, like being able to that someone actually like reached out to you because they wanted you to headline an event that they're doing it's a huge honor. The furthest away from home I've performed is Panama. Yeah, and I plan on going to France at the end of the year to perform. So yeah.
Awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm excited.
I'm glad you took the leap and took the course and became the force that you are today.
Me too.
And burlesque is so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
I love it.
It really is. How long have you been doing burlesque?
I've been doing burlesque for off and on for about 6 years now.
Nice.
And I've also had the issue of like, I don't necessarily fit into this certain style that is popular with burlesque. So I had to kind of like create my own space and create my own shows and do things the way that I want to do them. And sometimes that's how you have to do it. And you have to hold on to your own creativity with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's something that when we're looking at the bios for all the performers for my festival, What the Funk, especially, most of the performers are usually about 40. Most of them have a producer or co-producer credit somewhere in their bio. You see a need and you fill it. You see this the lack of, or you want to kind of stretch what is known about this particular art form, and so you have to be the person to create it. No one's going to do it for you.
Exactly. So what role has burlesque played in your healing, especially over the past few years when you've been navigating illness?
I think that burlesque has it's contributed to kind of the decline of my health in some ways. I'm autistic, and burlesque is a special interest. Like, it's like this is my son is autistic, and he is like really into trains, Sonic the Hedgehog, world history, and my special interests are burlesque and kink. Like I can't go more than an hour without talking about one of those 2 things in excruciating detail.
I love it.
But excruciating detail. But burlesque has it was very healing in the beginning. Very empowering in the beginning. Burlesque is one of those art forms where like you are really in charge of so much of the creative process from start to finish. Like you have your idea, you build your costume, or you put your costume together, you do your choreography, and here's your art baby that you burst into the world. And typically there's very little outside interference into that creative process unless you decide to let it in. And that's really empowering, I think, for a lot of folks that are in marginalized bodies, that we don't really get afforded that opportunity in most aspects of our life, of being fully in control of an idea to actual completion of the idea. And so it was really, really deeply empowering for me. And then a lot of what I had learned out in the world sort of being really applicable to the business end, the production end of things. And so I really fell headfirst into producing. I perform a lot, but producing is like where like the heart is. And it is a lot of work to break barriers that are there. It's a lot of work to stand up and say, hey, this isn't right. You make a lot of enemies. I definitely made a lot of enemies doing this work. I have a standard. And I am unwavering on that standard. I have to be, because of who I am and how I move in the world. Other people don't have those standards for themselves, and that's totally okay. I don't have to make space at a table for you, and I won't make a space at a table for you. And that was also a really healing thing for me, to be able to like stop people pleasing and stop being in a position of I so badly want everyone to be my friend, and this kind of Pollyanna complex that I had going into burlesque. Burlesque has definitely allowed me to kind of like stand on my own 2 feet. And it is rough. It's rough out there. Everybody wants to be a star. We're all stars. And we all have our hurts and our traumas and our pain that we bring into the dressing rooms, online and into these spaces. I wish folks so much, so much that we do some of that inner work, so that we can be in spaces with other folks that are still in like these growth moments within themselves, right? It's hard. I think it's harder even more so now with just like the current political climate and, we made all these steps forward and we're taking all these steps back, and the stress is very triggering. It's really, 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 really hard. And so like burlesque has done so much for me as like becoming, more confident in myself, confident in like how I carry myself as a business person. I created a whole art and culture nonprofit because of, being involved in burlesque. Like it's given me so much. It's also very stressful. The money doesn't money always, and there's only so many venues and there's only so many gigs. And people are fighting over gigs, and we're fighting over $50 and a slice of pizza, maybe, it's a lot. And some folks really do burlesque for the love of the game, and some of us do it because we do love it, but also we need the money. Like money is, until we live in a world that is free of capitalism, you kind of have to have the capital to opt out,
it's still a job.
So, yeah, it's still a job. Like the moment you decide that you're going to take money to do the thing, you kind of have to do the thing. And I think that has been a point of contention within myself and the industry sometimes, the community sometimes is like, I'm glad that you're having fun. I'm glad that this $75 that this producer is paying you is a drop in the bucket and it doesn't matter to you, but like it matters to that producer. It matters to other folks that are here in this space right now. So we need to show up. completely and fully. Yeah.
Totally. So there's this ongoing conversation forever about the intersection of burlesque and sex work. Can we talk about that for a little bit? Like
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
About it. Yes.
So like how does the stage become a platform for empowerment and visibility?
I mean, most of us who are getting on that stage are in bodies that are like, there's a lot of legislation about what rights we have and don't have. So like, it's
Especially
deeply
right now.
empowering right now, right? It's hot, right? So like stepping onto a stage in a body that like there are laws and bills that are meant to govern you is a political action. Doesn't matter if you're getting on stage and you're doing the most beautiful classic fan dance act in the whole wide world, or you're getting it there with your cardboard sign and pouring paint all over your body and having like a riot girl moment, like that. It's all political when you are in a body that is not a straight size cis het white male body, period. And so there is a lot of power there. I think when we're talking about this like intersection between burlesque and sex work, everything boils down to whorephobia. If you are perceived to have a vulva, whorephobia is like that sticker is ready to be slapped on you just for existing, right? And so it's like that is the through line. Burlesque, not all burlesque is stripping, but a lot of it is stripping, So like there are blue laws in cities all over the country that govern how naked you can get if there's liquor around, or if you could actually witness you taking off your clothes, or like all of that. There's like a lot of weird little laws. It's the governing of the femme form, right?
Yeah.
It's the policing of the femme form. It is blocking access of the femme form to take power and make a personal decision to monetize their body, as opposed to letting a man be in control of the monetization of your body. And that's the same with burlesque as it is with sex work, what it is with stripping. Like all of it is like, it's about the power to make the decision in the body that you're in to monetize it in the way that you see fit, without having the man be there telling you what you can and can't do with it. It's empowering, and it's also, I can see how it's scary to a system that very much so banks on AFAB people feeling powerless and can't escape and not having the means of their own production.
Yes, it's never ends.
No,
Constant power
ongoing
struggle.
Yeah.
So I've noticed you've been organizing in Seattle's sex positive community for over a decade, and I think that's amazing. What are some of the most important lessons you've learned about community care?
People use the word community a lot. That's what I've learned, is people use the word community like they use the word family to excuse a lot of crappy, shitty behavior. It's like, oh, I thought this community would be more accepting. And it's like, you showed up to someone's party and you like didn't follow the rules of the party. The community does not need to rise up to meet you there, right? Like the rules were there. The community didn't do this, the community didn't do this, the community didn't do that. I'm like, well, what did you give to the community? I'm like, because if you showed up for one party and paid $20, like, thank you for your donation. Like, you know what I mean? So it's fascinating within the sex positive community, like here in Seattle. Like it is, I think it's when you really love doing something, you really want to give yourself to it. People will exploit that, and they'll use community as a means to do that, right? Where it's like, keep giving, 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 giving. Volunteer all of your time, give extra money, do this, do that. And so you do all that. And then when you need to take a break, when you need someone to show up for you in a way, people will call you greedy or, like you don't care. They'll kind of like really try to take away that impact. I have found myself really in these years gravitating towards like collaborations and like co-producing events with people that have share similar values to me around what community is and isn't. And I think that's the most valuable thing. I think out of anyone that's like trying to do something in community, surround yourself with people that have a similar ethic and like it's just, that will help you so much. And also surround yourself with people who don't say yes all the time. I feel really fortunate. I have a lot of people in my circle that be like, oh, hell no. We're not, that's not good for you. That's not good for the organization. That's not good. Or like, here are some, here are some spots that you missed. I think that when you start to show up in places and as a leader or as like someone that, has got their shit together, it looks like, it can look like from the outside that like, you think that you're a know-it-all. You think you have all these people who are like just yes, mammon and no mammon you and all this other stuff. No. I have a lot of people that I love and respect dearly who are just like, absolutely the fuck not. I'm like, oh, okay. Hear you. Great.
It's important to have opposing ideas sometimes so that you can grow and learn. And no matter how far you come, you always have more to grow.
Absolutely.
We love doing this work, maintaining a platform for sex workers to tell their stories, entertaining and educating the public. If you love our podcast, please consider donating. We are now a 501c3, so your donations would be considered tax deductible. Go to yaswork.org/donate and easily send us some support to help keep this podcast going. That's yaswork.org/donate.
Tell us about What the Funk. I want to know more about that. Like,
What the Funk has started off as like they call it an act of oppressed pettiness. I was tired of seeing all white shows in Seattle. I was had an incident with a producer who was just like, oh, funk music isn't classic music. It's got to be from this period to this time period. And I was just like, oh my God, like that sucks. You suck. And I probably will never do anything with your group because this is like very narrow-minded and also deeply dismissive like to like Black culture and stuff. And so I created What the Funk as a 2-night burlesque show back in 2018. We did 2 nights of it, and at the end of the second show, I was in the green room. I was a little tipsy, and I'm like, I'm gonna make a burlesque festival. I hadn't even been to a burlesque festival yet. But like, I'm gonna make one. It's gonna be great. And so What the Funk is now co-produced by myself and Rebecca of the Sam Flate Show and Stormy Chance, the solution specialist of burlesque. The three of us put together What the Funk year after year. It's a 3-night burlesque festival that is all funk music and all people of color. We have performers from all over the country. Was it last year? Yep, last year we had a performer come over from the UK to perform with us. Like it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's my longest running event. We have done it. It's be our 6th year anniversary this August. And it's a love letter to the Black men in my family. It truly is. I have memories of like the Black men in my family at like cookouts, And the only time I got to see them like carefree and light and happy was like when they were hanging around the grill listening to funk music. And so it fills this cup for sure. But it's a fun time. If you're like, I want to go to Seattle in August, you should, because it's
It
first of all, it's
sounds
beautiful
fun.
in Seattle. It's beautiful in Seattle in August. But
Nice.
two, the festival's amazing.
I love it. So, in your opinion, why is it important to center BIPOC voices and bodies in burlesque?
It goes back to this erasure thing, you know, like with queer, like also with like queer culture, right? Like there are so many BIPOC legends that we have just that were forgotten because someone wasn't there with a camera. Because why would they be there with a camera, right? So it's like for every Tony Elling and Tangeray, you know, there is all these other performers that Black and brown performers that no one was there with a camera, you know, kind of thing. And so I really think that centering the bodies and artistry of BIPOC performers in burlesque is so that our history and our contribution to this art form doesn't get buried and erased. You know,
Yes.
Black AFABs we're the prototype. We are we really do create trends and fashion and like we're ahead of the curve always ahead of the curve when it comes to what's the latest, greatest, what's going to happen. And it's painful to continue to see that like erasure of that brilliance.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what advice would you give to emerging performers and organizers who want to create inclusive, sustainable spaces?
I mean, I think having a set of like having a mission statement and like your personal values is huge. I think that a lot of folks that when you're starting out as a performer or an organizer, you don't know what you don't know. And so there is that steep learning curve of like, oh, shouldn't have done that. Won't do that again. So like
Yeah.
really sitting and thinking about like, what are your hard limits? What do you stand for? And what are you about? And I think that, you know, I tell folks that I am less interested in safe spaces and more interested in spaces of accountability. And mostly because only the most marginalized person in the room can decide if a space is safe for them.
Totally.
But we talk about spaces of accountability. We're talking about like, what do you do when something goes wrong, not if. And people use the word accountability a lot these days. Like, take accountability for this, take accountability for that. Sometimes someone taking accountability is not a big public splashy thing. Sometimes it's like, I know what has been done. I know what has transpired. And this is what I'm doing moving forward to protect myself, protect my boundaries, and to protect, you know, my business and what I'm doing. So really knowing like, what does accountability look like and feel like to you? You know, yeah, but yeah, I can't stress enough the idea of like, what are your personal code of ethics? It's a big thing. And, you know, I think that everyone's moral compass is in different places.
Yeah.
At all, you know, different spaces all the time. And so I think really getting comfortable with the fact that a lot of things can't just be black and white. There is some gray, especially in movement building, community organizing, because a lot of the systems that are in place were not created with people like us in mind at all. And so my feeling is that, well, if I was never thought of when these things were happening, I ain't got to follow all the damn rules. I'm going to do what I need to do.
I heard that. For sure. For sure. So let's talk about FatCon. What is FatCon? It sounds
That is wild. So FatCon kind of came out of all this work that I was doing in burlesque. I constantly out here, being like, we need more Black and brown performers on stage. We need more disabled people on stage. And then realizing that fat performers were really getting like, if you're fat and you have any other marginalization tagged to you, what? There's just this general assumption that like we're not bookable. And I was like, this is terrible. So right before the pandemic started, some friends of mine reached out and they're like, yo, we're gonna do this 1-day fat conference called Fuck Yeah Bodies. Can you bring us some fat burlesque entertainment? And I'm like, absolutely. Pandemic happened. We couldn't do the event, but this kept sticking in my head. I had gone to an all plus size burlesque festival back in 2018, and it was really an amazing experience. And so I went to my friends and I'm like, yo, when this pandemic, as we come out of this pandemic, I want to do an event. I want to do a fat convention. And my friend's like, you want to do a fat con? I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do a fat con. And like during the day, we'll have, all the education stuff. And then at night, we'll do the burlesque festival piece of it. And they're like, all right, let's go. Started doing the homework for it. It's a lot. It's a big lift. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to do the festival first. If it takes off, I will come back and we'll do this. We'll do the convention. So Fat Less Fest Northwest was born. The first year we did it, sold out, standing room only, beautiful time. So I said, okay, I'll do the convention. So FatCon, we had our first FatCon in January 2024. And we just had our second one in 2025. And the amazing thing is we get so many workshops about fat pleasure and fat sexuality submitted to us, and I think it's being who I am. I can go into this space as the con director and be like, all right, I want to see a fat sex worker panel. I want to see fat sex panels. I want to see burlesque performers. I want to see fat strippers. Like, this is what I want. And there's no real pushback from this team that I've, put together to create this event, which is really interesting because we have, we get fat folks from all walks of life. But, we do have a nice sized contingent of like fat white middle-aged housewives, that are like, I'm coming to FatCon, who are being exposed to a fat sex worker panel and be like, oh my God, there's fat sex workers. Like they're having their mind just rocked. Right. So like, it really puts us in a position of being very different than some of the other, like fat organizations that have been popping up, in that we're like, fat people are people. And I'm here as the person I am, making sure like, don't forget fat sex workers. Don't forget fat strippers. Don't forget the whorephobia affects fat people too. Let's not forget our fat, trans nibblings and make sure they're included in this event. So I just feel like I'm in a really great position to sit and advocate for more representation within fat community with FatCon.
That's amazing. That's so amazing. I love it. How do you see fat liberation connecting with your work in BDSM, sex ed, and performance?
Oh, I mean, Fat Less Fest, the burlesque festival is really kind of gives us this moment to change people's lives. I think that like when I first got started as a performer, I thought, oh, my acts have to be funny because I'm fat. And that's, what fatty funnies, and I really struggled with that and against that for a long time. I think some of the most amazing burlesque acts I've ever seen have been classic glamour burlesque acts with folks in fat bodies. It's subversive, even though it's just a fat person existing doing so, but it is subversive, right? I find it stunning, amazing, and I find it like deeply like it's healing, right? I think that, fat folks aren't really afforded the idea of like glamour and being like gorgeous and beautiful. When I think of a glamorous fat entity, I'm like, oh, Miss Piggy was allowed to be glamorous, you know? But like fat bodies, being seen as something like desired, wanted, craved, and seeing that on a stage, and it's like 45 fat burlesque performers over 3 days. People cry. Like, like you go up at I go and talk to as many audience members as I can in the middle of the intermission for these shows, and people will grab you and they just start crying. Fat people, formerly fat people, people who have dealt with fatness all their lives, people who are straight size, who are there with their fat partner having a whole emotional moment. Like it's incredible. The first year we did the festival, we had a lot of volunteers who were straight sized, and I had one come up to me and like she was in tears and she's like, someone just pulled me aside and they just told me how grateful they were that this existed. And it just moved me. And now here I am crying in front of you. And I'm like, okay, let's hug it out. Like, but it does, fat phobia affects all people. We all have this internalized thing of what we think our bodies should be, what it should look like. Society is constantly telling us what it should and should look like. I think that when I think about BDSM spaces, I've always seen a lot of fat people in kink and BDSM spaces. They typically tend to be covered up. They struggle with a lot of the fetish wear doesn't necessarily go up to the larger sizes. You have these bondage and rope guys who are like, oh yeah, I don't tie fat bitches, or they'll try to convince you that like tying fat people is exactly the same as tying straight size people when it's not any more rope, right? So like it's really bizarre. And so like I think like at FatCon, one of our most popular workshops the last 2 years has been our learning how to tie fat bodies. And like people cry, they cry.
Yeah.
The whole moment. Our instructor.
So that's a space where a lot of people feel completely excluded from.
Absolutely. And so this instructor does like teaching how to tie for fat bodies, and then later on comes back in the evening and does a rope performance with one of her partners who's fat, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's a suspension, so it's like fat bitches flying.
Awesome.
Love that.
I love it.
But like my work is to help facilitate these things so that people know that there is access to these things, and that like these things should be more accessible, but they're not. And so here we are trying to break down some of those, some of those barriers that hold people back from being able to experience those things.
That's amazing. And that level of representation is so powerful. It's amazing. So how do you manage to secure like local, state, and federal funding for burlesque? And what tips would you give to other marginalized artists trying to access funding?
It's a lot of writing out the gate. Like it's a lot of writing out the gate. But if you are a producer who's producing burlesque events and things like that, check and see in your, your city, your state, your whatever, if there is someone that does fiscal sponsorship. I think it's a really good way to kind of get your foot into the door. Fiscal sponsorship allows you to kind of operate as a nonprofit. And so that allows you to apply for some of these grants, which is, that's what we did. It's really, really helpful. And sitting down and creating like a tracker of all the grants you can find. When you first get started, like, yes, aim for the moon, but also there are a lot of, $500 to $2,500 grants that are out there. So like apply for those. For individual artists, you typically don't need to be a nonprofit or anything like that. Research them. Start collecting recommendation letters from people that you've worked with in the past. Collect testimonials. Make sure that you're saving copies of your work, whether that be videos of your work, or, if you're creating posters for your shows or your events or whatever, saving all those things, archiving those things, it's going to make it a hell of a lot easier when you're filling out these applications for the different grants. But there are grants, there are foundations that really want to support the arts. Sometimes their hands are tied because they're getting funding from local government, state. Federal is now a lot more complicated, of course, but so they have all these things that they have to do for reporting purposes. So a lot of the times when they're asking you for like really highly specific things, they're not doing it just to be jerks. They're doing it because they have to answer to someone on the other end. But yeah, I would highly recommend researching fiscal sponsorship. And then a lot of like art and culture organizations, even the city ones offer different kinds of free workshops of like how to apply for funding, how to start fundraising, how to gain donors. Go to those free workshops. They're virtual. Go to them and just absorb like a little sponge. Soak it all in.
Yeah. So what kind of challenges are you facing for your nonprofit due to the political climate attacking DEI efforts? And how are you navigating that?
So some grant money that we get is supplemented by the National Endowment of the Arts. We have had an NEA designation on the What the Funk website for 3 years now, and it has to come down, because we're going to get funding from the National Endowment of the Arts because this administration has lost its complete and utter damn mind. It's painful. Like, we work with, we're fiscally sponsored. At the beginning of the year after the inauguration, there was a whole scary panic with our fiscal sponsor when they saw that some of the first set of actions this administration was doing was starting to recall grants and it's really establishing that they were going to destroy these departments. It was frightening. We had a grant that was kind of in limbo for a little while where we weren't sure if we were going to get it or not. And it wasn't because like we weren't owed that money. We weren't sure if our fiscal sponsor was going to be able to do it, just in general, be able to facilitate.
Scary.
It's really scary. It's scary watching some of these larger institutions in our area like struggle, because if they're struggling, yeah. And then a lot of like my art and culture org, like we, more than 50% of the funding that we have through the year is grants. The rest of our funding is from community, from our donors. And that's something that I really want to highlight, when you're trying to put together these events and you're looking at like sponsorships and donations and things like that, like so much your community wants to be involved. They do so much, and they want to be of service. And sometimes the way that for folks to be of service is to write a check, or to give money. And I think the biggest rule of thumb and something that we really try to do with our donors is like, our donors are on our team. They're on our side, and we try to include them in those choices and as for the decisions that we're making. It's going to be tough. It's going to be awful. It's going to be not a fun time out here. So if you are struggling with like on the funding end of things or trying to figure out what to do, coalition building, collaboration, joint group fundraising events, splitting funds between, the different, groups that are coming together. Like, people are so paralyzed with fear right now that they don't know what to do. And as radical artists, as sex worker advocates and activists, like, we can stand up and be like, yo, you don't know what to do right now? Give me $50. And I know what to do with that. I know exactly what to do with that. I know exactly where that needs to go. So we were in a position to help people who are feeling completely petrified in what to do next. We were in a unique position to rally and protest for them by using our bodies and our voices when they feel too paralyzed to do it. That's pretty powerful.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been amazing, and I can't wait to see more of what you're into and maybe come to some of your events in Seattle, because it sounds so fun.
We'd love to have you. Thank you for having
So
me.
fun.
This has been great.
Is there anything else that you would like to tell our listeners while you're here?
Yeah. So What the Funk is in August. It's August 21st to the 23rd here in Seattle. Definitely come check us out. We're at the Triple Door in downtown Seattle, which is a historic venue. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's a great place to see a show. Their cracked coconut martinis are the best. And then FatCon and Fatless Fest are coming back in 2026. We call it Thickness. And so Thickness is January 15th through the 18th here in Seattle. And if you're like, I am one of those paralyzed people and I don't know where to throw my money, you can definitely throw your money at these events. We have lots of different ways for you to do that and to get involved. So if you're like, I really want to get involved, I just don't know how, but I got some money, let's talk. We'll make magic happen.
Yes. And where can we find more of you online?
Oh, Instagram is the best place to catch me, at Pucks Aplenty on Instagram, also at the FatCon, at Fatless Fest NW, and at What the Funk Fest.
Thank you so much. This has been a really awesome conversation, and it's been wonderful to get the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk to Pucks.
100%. They said, oh, okay. I think the part when they're like shopping for clothes, I was like, that is the hardest thing for me. Cause like,
Yeah.
I don't like women's clothes, and then men's clothes doesn't fit me really great. And so like every time I go to get dressed, especially for like a family event or like something where you're supposed to dress like a total slut, I have such a hard time dressing myself. I'm like, I have no clothes because I hate every time I go to the store, I'm like bouncing back and forth between both the men's and the women's section. Because I want thing in the middle, like how I feel, so that was like really resonated with me. Yeah, that was awesome. You did a great job. You asked like some really solid questions there, Daisy. That was awesome. Yes.
No,
yeah.
it was so cool. And like Pucks is involved in so much
I know.
stuff that I want to learn more about. Like, I wish I had another hour.
I know. I noticed. I was like, Daisy, you're going a little wet. It was awesome though. It was hard not to keep like listening because like there was just so much good stuff coming out of that. So that was rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really do want to get up to Seattle and
I've never been there.
some of these events.
Yeah. Have you been there? I've never been there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've been to Seattle once, but it was in the fall and the weather was terrible.
oh yeah. Super rainy, right? That's the deal. Anyway, but yeah. Try to go. That would be rad.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to close us out?
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you for listening to YAS Podcast. I am your host, Daisy Ducati, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Looking for bold, wearable art designed by sex workers? Welcome to the YAS Store, where art fuels the movement. We collaborate with sex worker artists, and every purchase supports sex workers through profit share. And also YAS Work, our nonprofit fighting for sex worker rights through media, education, and advocacy. This is more than merch. It's a message. It's a mission. It's the YAS Store.
Shop now at yasstore.shop and wear your values out loud.
Visit yasstore.shop and sign up for our monthly newsletter to receive 10% off your next order. YAS Podcast is produced by YAS Work, which is a nonprofit dedicated to educating and entertaining audiences about sex work through media. Learn more about how you can get involved in the podcast and our organization by visiting yaswork.org. That's YASWORK.org.